Good morning. Where is everybody? You know, 8:30? Come on now. I do?
I'll take roll.
Yeah, take roll. Morning. Oh, by the way, I don't normally start calling folks before 7, but three of the people here, I called at 7. So don't be surprised if you get a call at 7. All right. Let's see. This is Legislative Day 27. So we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to put in another supplemental calendar for today. So don't want y'all to go home too early. And when you do go home, you need to be careful because they're talking about potentially severe thunderstorms tonight. So, you know, we could just work all night. Good thought. We'll just go to 5 and get finished. Okay. Mr. Williams, would you open us with prayer, please, sir?
Let us pray. Almighty and everlasting God, we thank you for today. We thank you for those that have come together. We thank you for this committee. Thank you for enabling us to do the work of the people. And Lord, we ask you to bless those on the wall that won't see their bill anymore this year. But Lord, we ask you to bless us, keep us in our right minds, and remembering the people of Georgia. For it is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Now, how could you say such a thing that people may not ever see their bill again?
It was laid on my heart.
Lay it on your heart. Well, you're probably right. Now remember, a bill has to be read by the clerk the next day before it's assigned to rules. So any bill that passed yesterday or this morning has to be read by the clerk today at 10:30 or after the pastor. So as of right now, we've got over 75 already on the general calendar. So needless to say, not all of them will make it through. And like I always say, it's nothing personal, but your bill may not make it through. All chairmen come up to the front. Okay. You know, we need to have fun today a little bit, considering, you know, this is day 27 and Tuesday's crossover. We're going to ask Mr. Chokus if he would come and briefly explain why this bill is needed and what your bill does.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I bring before you today House Bill 1103. This measure was brought to me by the rental equipment industry. Currently, rental equipment companies can put a line item on their billing invoices for pro rata share of ad valorem taxes on equipment weighing 5,000 pounds or more. This measure simply brings the weight threshold down to 1,500 pounds or more. And that's it.
Okay. Mr. Williams, you have a question? No, I just forgot to turn you off. Sorry. All right. Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Mr. Hogan. Yes, sir. You're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I bring before you today House Resolution 593, seeking compensation for Dennis Arnold Perry. Mr. Perry was wrongfully convicted of murders of Harold and Thelma Swain and spent more than 20 years in the prison. DNA and other evidence find him to be innocent. The resolution seeks to compensate Mr. Perry for his wrongful imprisonment.
Okay. Do I? Okay, it's not in, that one's not in your books yet, but it'll be out on Tuesday. It'll be in your books on Tuesday. Probably be on your books Monday afternoon when we meet.
Thank you.
And
Any questions?
this bill was passed by the Appropriations Committee.
It was.
Okay. Just FYI. See no questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Belton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had House Bill 972. This is a cleanup of the licensed counselor bills. This bill wasn't, this laws have not been updated since I was in high school. It's with an emphasis on mental health right now. This was the speaker and the governor. I think it's very timely. I've talked to all the psychologists, the hospitals, the preachers, the universities, the marriage counselors, social workers, the DHS, and everyone is very happy with this bill. A lot of people put a lot of work into getting this done.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Mr. Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I bring before you House Bill 1388. It's on your second page, fourth one down. What this is it's a legal organ bill, and if you don't know, there have been 10 legal organs in the state that have shut their doors, and when that happens, the code that allows for a legal organ is very constraining. And in my county, for instance, there was no newspaper that would qualify for the legal organ, so the only option we would have had under this code section, had we not got a new legal organ instated in the county, someone buying the paper out that shut down, then we would have had to have used a county over that has no circulation in my county, so which is completely against the intent of the legal organ, is giving notice to the folks. What this will allow is to give us some flexibility with other types of medium, doesn't put it online. I know many people have asked about that, but we've got newspapers in support of this currently, but someone told me you don't want to pick a fight with someone that buys ink by the barrel. So
You're exactly
we want to
right.
keep them in.
Okay. I don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Corbett. Oh, hold on. Chairman, hold on. Chair Lady Smith.
Thank you. I know there's going to be several questions. What are the options other than internet?
So what this does is the provision, there's several different criteria that to become a legal organ. The provisions this overcomes is the necessity to have less than 75% of the medium being advertising. In my county, there was a paper that was free and had more than 75% advertising, so it didn't qualify for the legal organ, but it would have covered 7 counties, and it would be a better or more suitable legal organ than a county over that has no subscription within the county. Also, it alleviates the necessity of it being paid. It doesn't have to be a paid circulation because that newspaper was free.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
All right. That's all now this time. Thanks, sir. Mr. Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1379, the very last one on the first page, LC 393357S. What we're doing with House Bill 1379, we're establishing the Georgia Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Advisory Board. The board will be able to receive federal grants as well as gifts and donations from individuals, private organizations, and foundations. And then the board will establish a grant program for the provision for funds to local law enforcement agencies and multi-jurisdictional task force. The board will be housed at the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, and that's the only change from we had this bill here one time before, sent it back to committee. We had it with the GBI. There were some questions there. It will now be at the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, and this has been done in several other states and has been very successful in preventing motor vehicle crimes.
Okay. Well, I don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
When are we going to get the clock fixed? up there. It's been sitting like that for a while. Okay. Mr. Collins.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First bill I have is HB 1441. It's on the second page, halfway down. This bill is just a very simple bill. It simply exempts post-certified officers who are currently working in Georgia from having to register with the Secretary of State's office as to work for a private security company. 23 other states currently do that. A couple of reasons why this is important is it helps our law enforcement who are working in security jobs as a second job. It keeps them from having to go through a lot of red tape. Also, one thing that we can hang our hat on here in our state, our post council has one of, if not the most, what am I looking for here? Highest revocation rates in the nation. So we do a very good job of policing the police. That's a very simple bill. It was brought to me by several different groups, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Martin.
Mr. Chairman, this is important to you. It's important to me. Isn't it true former Chairman Brooks Coleman could fix that clock for us?
Yes, sir. Sorry I brought it up. I don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
I got
you
two
got
more.
two more. Okay.
The second bill is HB 1387. It's 3 bills down on the back sheet. What this does is this is some cleanup language. When we passed the overtaking the school bus to allow cameras to issue tickets, and also the school speeding ticket violation through the camera, the civil monetary penalty, there was a hiccup in that the ticket goes to the vehicle. And what we've had is several car dealers who have been stuck paying these fees, these civil monetary penalties, because folks trade these cars in and the dealer cannot transfer that title without clearing up those tickets. So what we're doing is we're going to give and I worked with the Department of Revenue. We got some cleanup language in here. Basically what it does is the issuing governing authority would issue the warning, hey, you've got the ticket, you've got a warning, and after a certain period of time, the Department of Revenue will then issue a notice to the registrant of that vehicle that their tag will be suspended if they do not pay that fine. So this way it cleans up this good piece of legislation and keeps these dealers from having to pay these civil monetary penalties when people trade their cars in. So I think it's a pretty good piece of legislation. Again, work with the Department of Revenue to help get that language right.
Okay. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Collins, I've had a lot of complaints. Is it not true? I've had a lot of complaints from constituents that they're getting these speed zone violations when schools are not in session. This applies to the school speed zone cameras, correct?
It does. And that does not address any of those issues.
Well, would the author be willing to consider tightening up some of the use of these cameras when the schools are not in session?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Setzler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just want to understand what this bill does operationally. So initially, this was going to be a civil fine that was paid.
Right.
You know, we have computers that are enforcing, we have computers that are policing people. And what this does is, if you don't pay your fine, you can't re-tag your car, is what this says.
That's correct. And what it does is it keeps that dealer from having to pay these fines if the owner of the car does not do that and trades that car in.
So it's good for dealers, but it hammers citizens by saying you can't tag your car. If a computer sends you a speeding ticket, you don't pay that $100 ticket.
Well, currently in statute, you cannot renew your registration if you don't pay the fine. So I mean, it's
to my friend, I'm not picking on you. I think the General Assembly needs to revisit this policy. This policy, the underlying policy, is a disaster for constituents. There's no judgment here. It's as soon as that camera takes your picture, even if you're slowing down to a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone, there's just no way out. I just think we need to revisit the policy.
And you still have your day in court, Representative.
Mr. Jaspers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Chairman Collins, does this bill have any additional criteria surrounding the school zone to make sure it's appropriately marked? Because as Chairman Williamson said, I'm getting complaints from constituents that the blinking lights aren't working, They're only identified on one side, maybe on the eastbound, but not on the westbound, and constituents are getting tickets unknowingly. Does this bill address that?
Well, to my good friend, for those of you who never had the privilege of serving in local government, welcome to the world I lived in for 14 years. It does not do that, and it probably, if someone wanted to bring a bill to my committee, I would certainly listen to it. But like I tell my people back home, you know, my municipality that does this and county, they don't do a real good job of hiding those flashing lights up there and having the sign up. So, you know, it does not address any of that. This is just a logistical cleanup in the language to keep these dealers from having to pay these tickets for something that they didn't do.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, but as Chairman Williamson said, since this code section's open, would you be willing, if this bill moves on, to address those issues our constituents are having?
Oh, certainly, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Thank you. Chairman Collins, just for clarification, current law is if you don't pay the fine, you're saying that you can't renew. Right. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so this would change it that if you don't pay, your license is, your tag is immediately suspended?
No, it's not immediately suspended. You get several warnings by local government, and then after that, you wind up getting a notice from the Department of Revenue.
But it will be suspended versus non-renewal. It will be suspended within 30 days, right?
No, it's not 30 days. You get some notice from local governments. You get two notices after, I think it's 90 days. Department of Revenue is notified, and then they give you 30 days to do that. So you're looking at, you know, several months before your registration gets suspended.
Ms. Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Collins, I just have a quick question. I know from your experience in law enforcement, you know that defendants have a right to confront the person accusing them.
Yes.
How does one confront a camera?
You can still go to the jurisdiction, the state court or municipal court, and.
But the camera is accusing you of a crime. How do you confront it or cross-examine it?
Well, you walk in there and you say, hey, we need to talk about this. I have a different perspective other than this camera. Same way that you have the ability to fight a ticket that's issued by a post-certified peace officer in our state.
Okay, I don't see any more questions.
Okay, all right. And with that, I will say goodbye.
Okay. Let's see, what's your name again? Mr. Gaines.
Matthew Gamble.
Oh. So that's Houston Gaines back here in the back, right?
That's Houston back there.
You know those two are full of it.
The other day you said we weren't good looking. Now you're saying we're full of it.
You know what they did yesterday? They got me down the front of the chambers there and had one on each side, and they took my picture. That will haunt me forever. Mr. Gaines, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1443, it's halfway down on the second page. This legislation cuts red tape and cuts fees for food truck operators in the state. It's a good bill that everybody, Department of Public Health, ACCG, Georgia Restaurant Association, the food trucks, we've all worked together to try to help some of our small business owners in this state.
I don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, who's up next? Come on. Hey, y'all just kind of move up so that when that person, y'all just step in. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I bring House Bill 1461. It's on the second page, 6 up from the bottom. This is another bill that came out of our Annexation Study Committee. This addresses a lot of cleanup items that will improve the process. It's possibly the only annexation bill that will come before this body for some time that has both GMA and ACCG support. So I consider that a good thing. We improve a lot of things in current annexation law with timelines, deadlines, delivery methods for reporting, arbitration panel issues, access to court reporters and hearing officers. We allow virtual and teleconference meetings, equally sharing arbitration costs, and reporting of arbitration and agreement results, and extending the binding term for panel-imposed conditions.
Don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Who's, Ms. Buckner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here about House Bill 1421. It's on page 3, and it's the fourth from the top. This is a bill that will dedicate the state's hazardous waste management fees to the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund. When we dedicated fees with bills in the past, or in the bill in the past, this one was omitted. But it would be a really good thing for us to dedicate these fees because almost every county in the state has a hazardous waste trust, has a hazardous waste site that these trust funds could be used to clean up. So I ask for your favorable consideration.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My bill is on the second page, 1436, ninth from the top.
Okay, go ahead.
What HB 1436 would do is that it will require each long-term care facility that has a website to post information about the ombudsman program. Now, the reason why this bill is important is because the state of Georgia already saw fit that this information needed to be posted throughout these long-term care facilities throughout the entire building. In light of what we've experienced during the recent COVID-19 pandemic, where families were not able to enter these facilities, this information will now be made available to them regardless of their accessibility to the facility or the building.
Now, see, he's one of the members of the Smith caucus. All right, that's it. And I don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Ridley.
Good morning. House Bill 1478, it's about 3/4 of the way down on the second page. All this bill right here does, we've had some issues with, currently your local tax commissioner cannot touch a title, so if somebody comes in that's got a problem with a car title or a dealer comes in, they're not allowed to mess with it. They want them sent to a third-party company, so a bunch of the tax commissioners came to me and want to be able to do that, so if you look on line 13, the only thing it's doing is saying that they may, but shall not be required to, because if they don't want to fool with it, then they don't have to, but if they want to process some of the dealer tags, then this gives them the choice to be able to do that. That's all the bill does.
Mr. Fleming?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, I believe you touched on what I was going to ask you about, and that is I know when I go home, my tax commissioner fusses regularly about several things.
That's right.
One of them is the 7% they have to deal with dealers and something about titles. So this is something they want us to help them to straighten out.
Yes, sir. That's something, that way if a dealer comes, because some of your local dealers will come in with an issue on a title, and they can fix it right there, send it, and it's done. If they have to wait on that third-party company, they could be waiting 5-6 weeks or never get it fixed at all. And so this just gives them permission to do it because currently under law they can't. So
as I first read it, it says that right now they have to submit these titles electronically, but now we're going to make that optional, basically?
No. So they still do everything electronically. They can just actually physically do it there, and then they still have to scan it electronically to the DOR or to the Department of Department of Revenue. And so they'll still be doing it electronically. It's just they actually can do it now for dealers.
Okay.
If they want to.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Powell.
Gentlemen, is it not true this only deals with car dealers that do less than 10 cars a month?
That would be correct.
And is it not so that because a lot of those dealers that are that small, for them to do it electronically, a lot of them are having to pay an exponential amount of money for a third party to do
that's
this
also
for
correct.
them, and a lot of them aren't technologically advanced enough, and this just solves a problem, not just tax commissioners and these smaller car dealers.
That's correct. Yes, sir. I think he said it best, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, I don't see any more questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Jenkins.
Yes, good morning. Appreciate you having me this morning. I'm here to present House Bill 1384. That's going to be on the top of the second page. This bill will allow, this will change Georgia building codes that will allow ungraded lumber to be used for structural purposes in uninhabited agricultural and residential outbuildings. This has been vetted through the Georgia Agricultural Commission, the Georgia Forestry Commission, the Georgia Forestry Association, and the Georgia Association of Realtors have expressed support for this. Basically, the use of ungraded lumbers will help farmers and homeowners have access to lower-cost structures, and it'll allow small business owners that operate these small-scale sawmills to have greater access to the marketplace. The market that this bill create should also reduce urban wood and unmarketable timber that winds up in landfills and being burned as rubble. Any of your questions?
I see none. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm here to present HB 1004, which is the fifth down on the first page. The AUCC in Georgia is the only consortium in the state. It includes Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, Morris Brown, and a couple others. They, right now, individually have to police their campuses. And although the campuses are intertwined, if a Morehouse police officer sees a crime on Spelman's campus, they actually can't do anything about it, and they have to call 911 and wait for APD to come. So every college president wrote a letter of support. The Atlanta Police Foundation wrote a letter of support. The Sheriff's Association has agreed, and all stakeholders are happy with this bill.
Okay, I don't see any questions.
I have one more.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
And HB 1152 is the eighth down on the first page. This bill really came about, everyone I'm sure in this room has had a circumstance where they went into a store and they said exact change only. You gave them your money and they did not give you your change back. So this bill just says you have to start giving people their money back. It excludes online businesses, sole proprietors, so it's really just everyday.
Okay. Speaker Pro Tem.
Thank you, Representative Maynard. I had a couple questions. So when I read the definition of the exception of a sole proprietor or a business with just one employee, if I were say a sole practitioner lawyer or a doctor or an insurance agent and I had only one employee, or I just worked for myself and had no employees, I would have to take cash then?
No, you're excluded.
Where is it excluded? Because I don't see that.
What LC? This is LC 510173S.
That's not the one that's in the book. So what I have is LC 510169S.
I will read it to you, and then I'll
Okay,
pass it
that's
to
fine.
you so you can see it.
Thank you. Then and that may take care of that. And then I had one other question. So this down on lines 26 through 28 would allow for a class action lawsuit. Is that right?
So we also removed that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. See no more questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Houston, come on. Matthew Gamble, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Houston Gaines. I've been called worse. I'm just kidding. No, it's good to be with you.
That's right. You just kidding. You haven't been called worse. Is that what you're referring to?
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
go ahead.
Okay, so I am not here today. I've already talked to y'all about House Bill 1193, the funeral director licensure bill. I spoke about that the other day, but actually I'm here to talk today about House Bill 1297. It's on the yellow sheet, but I did want to mention very succinctly, it's a voluntary insurance program that will lower insurance rates for consumers who build or retrofit their homes to what's called a fortified standard. They have to get documentation that it's been done. You can build fortified with concrete or wood, so it's not necessarily about the materials, but it's a way to bring insurers back into the market in riskier areas, and it's a positive thing that's being done in several other states. The insurance industry, supports this. It came through our committee with little to no opposition. I just wanted to mention that today.
Is there any way you can retrofit a current structure?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I see no. Oh, hold on, Ms. Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say there's one way we can clear up the confusion between the two legislators. We could let Danae Campbell come back and represent us. She's a former legislator, and she's much prettier than either one of them, and that would take care of the confusion.
That is very true.
And she's from Columbus.
She is, sir.
Yes, that is very true.
Good point. Good point. And she used to be a legislator, I'll tell you. Okay. Let's see. Mr. Hitchens, would you please go over 202, please?
Okay, under modified structure, House Bill 202, which is first on the blue sheet on the first page. It pertains to Joshua's Law, created in 2005. What it did was provide a 5% surcharge on all traffic fines to go towards driver's education in this state. During the Great Recession, it went from 5% to 1.5%, with the other 3.5% going into the general fund. I misspoke in committee, and I've talked to many of the members. I thought that money still went into the general fund, but a couple of years ago, it was sent back, and it's no longer a surcharge. What this bill would do is add another 1.5%. It's a three-tiered system. First priority goes to children who have a parent that was killed in the line of duty, either in the military or the public safety. The second is for those who suffer from financial need, typically a family of 3 that makes less than $1,000 a month. And the third goes to everybody else. And these are so sought after programs that it never goes to the third priority. Our friend Jay Powell instituted a 2020 constitutional amendment that now says that any fees that are collected in this manner stay in a trust fund and can only be used for the purpose for which they were intended. I would also like to add that this year I included children that are in foster care and under DFACS control who are released at the age of 18 would also be eligible for this until they're 20 years of age. My thought is that when they're released, they have no means. If they don't have a driver's license, they can't earn a living, and this would go a long way towards helping them. The year before last, we passed this bill in the House 150 to 9. Unfortunately, it was late in the session, just like this time, and it didn't get a hearing in the Senate. And the final caveat is, if we don't pass this bill, this is the sunset year. The whole program will go away June 30th.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. Ms. Smith?
No.
Oh, okay. You bet. Let's see. I don't see any question. One thing, too, that you may have mentioned it, but not only is it sunset on June 30th, since the increase is more than 1%, it will require 120 votes in the House. And, you know, this is an important bill. It helps these foster kids. It helps low-income kids who need the help. And in talking with Mr. Hitchens, these kids normally, because they really want this, do better on the exams than the kids who just walk in, who can afford it. You know, 'cause a lot of these kids say, well, I'm gonna wait till I'm 18 or whatever now. You know, they decide to go to it. But these kids really need and want this particular program. So, okay.
And the record reflects that those children who complete this course have less traffic violations and are involved in less accidents with less injuries and less fatalities than those who do not.
Okay. I see no questions. Thank you, sir. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I bring before you HB 997. It's the first one on the last page. You've already seen this bill before. It's eliminating the ad valorem taxes on timber equipment. This equipment is in the woods. It depreciates very fast, and we want to just treat it the same as we treat all other agricultural equipment. And that's what we're doing in that bill. And then the very last one on that same page is House Resolution 686. This is lowering the ad valorem that's collected on timber when it's harvested. Currently, when we harvest timber, it is taxed at the 100% level. It's called the Severance Tax that the local government assesses the landowner. We're wanting to lower that to 40%, which is the same as all other property that is taxed within our state. So it's about creating some fairness there and parity with all other property, and then at the same time requiring the state to reimburse the local governments the balance of that 60%, similar to the FLIPA program that we do with timber land. And that's what the two bills do.
Mr. Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I believe you touched on my question right at the end there. I know that under current law, when we do this to some extent, the state is required to backfill that for when we do that. Is that also for HB 997 that whatever we take off, we're going to backfill?
No, sir. On 997, that will not be reimbursed. That's just a straight exemption. According to ACCG, a lot of this equipment, some counties don't even know that it's there because it stays in the woods, and it's hard to keep up with. So some are doing it, some are not. They don't really know what the impact will be there, but it'll only be in our, heavily timber-producing counties.
Just one other question on that, as you and I are calling it backfilling, what we take away. I think that's subject to our appropriations every year, and what is our track record? Do you know in the past few years of doing that? Seems like to me it's good.
It's been pretty good. It's up to date, and we're current. There was a time where we did get behind, but as soon as we were able to catch it up, we did. And these will both be on the ballot. So the people of our state, at the end of the day, have to say that it's okay for us to do this.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Leader.
Quick question for the gentleman, if he'll take one.
Yes.
Isn't it true that certainly Georgia is the number one, agriculture is our number one industry in Georgia, and forestry we're the number one forestry state in the country, and that certainly with the situations that surround fuel costs, insurance costs, that the timber harvesting industry, that is the key to us growing trees in this state, is under great stress. And this bill would be very important to allowing a little bit of help for those folks who go out every day and work to make sure the harvesting and the procurement of trees and into our pulp and paper industry is accomplished, and this would be very important to them.
Yes, sir, Mr. Leader, you're correct. The timber industry is treated just like agriculture. They're price takers. They're not price setters. So they're told what they're going to be paid for the products, the crops that they grow, which is trees. But we also heard in Transportation Committee yesterday, we had a really long debate about truck weights and the serious condition that industry is in right now with the increased fuel costs, shortage of truck drivers. They're in serious trouble. And so these two bills would definitely help that industry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Speaker Pro Tem.
I just have a question because I'm not real familiar with the bill. So it would reduce the ad valorem rate to 40% of, I guess, the assessed value, sort of like we do with residential property or other properties. And does the state make up that difference? Do we then subsidize the difference to the local governments?
Yes, ma'am. There is they call it the PT 282 form, I believe, that when you harvest timber, the county, you have to submit that back, or the county submits that to the state, and the landowner has to pay that money back. And so they're already calculating the data at the local level, and they would just be sending that to Department of Revenue to be reimbursed in a grant.
Mr. Martin.
So if this passes and we value that property different, that's going to affect all the governments in those counties, right? That's going to affect the county, the city, and the Board of Education?
Well, it's going to be reimbursed back to them, so it won't impact them at all. Well, it'll impact them a very, very small amount. There's about 20 million collected statewide total now. When we do this, it obviously will be cut in half. The state will then have to reimburse.
Fair enough. I'm just trying to get specific on it. I'm not debating the issue with it, but it would affect the school board as well, and it's your estimation that they would be backfilled.
That's right.
So my question goes then that this would be a reduction of their tax digest, yet when the QBE funding is done in 5 mil shares, if reductions are done relative to homestead exemptions, those aren't taken out. So if we fail to reimburse school boards, does that then have to get filled back in with a 5 mil share in the QBE funding. And we can talk about it offline if you're not sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the gentleman, might I suggest that particularly on 997 and to an extent on 686, that certainly the explanation by the majority leader is important, and because we have a lot of people that don't know what kind of equipment is used for timber harvesting in the legislature, I would suggest that you explain what timber equipment and timber products are that you don't see out there and why.
So, I mean, that's skidders. It's just huge equipment. It's expensive equipment. We had one out here on the parking lot, if everyone remembers, several weeks ago. They can be in the 300,000 range as far as cost goes. It's very expensive, but it also is in the woods. It's a lot of hard wear and tear, so the equipment depreciates very fast, but it is extremely expensive to purchase, and is extremely expensive to maintain, just by looking at the tires on it and the size of the machine and what it does for a living, is very expensive.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Thank you. Just from my understanding, real property is taxed every year and assessed at 40%, right? So we take the value, 40%, tax it each year. Timber is only done at harvest. So I think that's why which is essence, about 2.5 years worth of taxes. So what this would do, in my understanding, is it would basically keep it at that 40% rate. So that's basically what we're doing here. That's the difference between the timber and real property, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. For those of you who don't see much about timber harvesting, you know the drivers who go down into the woods and they come out with all this pulpwood, they have to have a CDL license. Insurance is a bear in order to get these people so that they can work, really. So the timber industry, it's a different animal. So, is that it? Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman. Appreciate it.
Okay, I think that's all the presenters except those on the committee. So we'll get started in some kind of order here. Mr. Hitchens has already presented his. Ms. Ballinger, would you do 274?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I present 274. This just provides our Superior Court judges get a bump, get a special allocation, get a grant, whatever. They get $6 grand for doing alternative courts, and this just brings, our juvenile courts are doing alternative courts as well, and this just brings those in parity. It gives them that same allocation. And it will be, there was some concern about them becoming direct payees from the state, so the bill was changed to kind of funnel that through the Council of Juvenile Court Judges, which everybody gets happy with. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Mr. Green.
Thank you. So this money, with passage of this bill, the money will be in the budget?
The money was in the budget, and the money has actually been taken out of the budget because this bill has not passed. However, I have been assured by Chairman England that the money will be made available.
Okay, I did hear that it had been taken out. And
yeah, it was taken out because the bill hasn't passed.
Passed.
So there's
Okay.
nothing to fund.
All right.
But
Thank you.
if it does pass, then it will be funded.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, do you have a question? I think she has another bill to present. Hold on one second.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, number 1, 2, 3, 4.
This just provides, it sets out in statute that children who are under the care of DFACs have a right to an attorney until they're 21, as long as they're under the care of DFACs. If they age out at 18 or they stay in the system until 21, is allowed by law.
Okay, I don't see any questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I bring to you today for your consideration, actually reconsideration, House Resolution 594. It was voted on in the House, needed 120 votes, missed it by 8, and I'm hoping that we get the 120 this time. It compensates people who've lost their homes due to a national emergency.
Okay. I see no questions. Thank you, ma'am. All right, let's see. Mr. Williamson, House Bill 1069.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1069 creates a new license category for adult residential psychiatric treatment centers, not hospitals, but adult psychiatric residential treatment centers for limited stays, adults up to 90 days. Currently, that whole space is being licensed is personal care homes, which don't give the flexibility to get the psychiatric and mental health care services to their patients. It comes with the support of the Georgia Psychiatric Association in collaboration with the Department of Community Health and the Georgia Hospital Association, and Chair Lady Cooper is co-authored the bill. Happy to answer any questions.
Don't see any questions. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Powell, I think you have 1322.
I have 1322, Mr. Chairman, but I have been told not to ask for this because it's not going anywhere. And I certainly do understand how this is played, and I certainly understand the orders.
My mistake.
But
My
I will be more than glad to explain it to the membership.
What that particular bill does has to do with charging stations for electric vehicles. There is another bill floating around out there that would create a study committee for, to look at this issue overall. And my mistake, Mr. Powell. Good answer, though. It's the truth. You're right. Okay. Let's be sure. Okay. Well, Mr. Powell, you do have 1424. It's on the second page. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is a same bill that this House has passed, and it's over in the Senate. This was an abbreviated version of the COAM bill. We've got several bills over in the Senate, and as we all know how the Senate committees like to play games, they have Senate bills. We have a House bill or two over there on this. Be glad if it's the will of this committee to move this one forward, but it'll just add to what they've got to look at over there.
Okay.
But I'd be more than glad to explain this bill. This basically does the gift card for COAM, puts them under the Administrative Procedures Act, allows fraternal organizations to be able to be exempted from the 50% rule, your BFWs, AMVETs, and the such. And I'd be glad for this body to hear that bill again. And I've also got another bill, 1400.
Okay, go ahead. I think you've already presented that one, haven't you?
I have.
Okay. Well, you don't have to present that. We only hear them once for right now. Okay. Getting some feedback on this thing a little bit. Let's see. Trying to go through here to see who hadn't presented. Mr. Jaspers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 1481 on the second page, about halfway down. This is for our used car dealers. What it will do is fix the number of dealer tags that they receive on the January 1st, 2020 number. It will expire in 5 years. And the reason we're doing this is just poor sales in the used car market in the last 5 years. They're taking away these dealer tags. They use them to buy cars, to people to test drive cars. because they earn dealer tags due to sales. And this will just freeze it for 5 years and let them continue business.
Don't see any questions. Okay. Chairman Administration 1428, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1428 is on the second page, midway down 1428. This is the annual code revision commission bill. It's corrections, addresses omissions, or other issues in the code, what I'd characterize as non-substantive changes, just clean up.
Don't see any questions.
Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time also, I'm happy to present the substitute of 1350 if that's appropriate.
Okay. 1350, now is the appropriate time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on the desk or handed out was a Rules Committee substitute, House Bill 1350. The underlying issue of the bill was really a probate matter carried by Representative Wade, and the banking industry communicated some cleanup language that was needed that really is covered in Section 2. So that was considered in judiciary as an additional matter as part of this underlying bill. And since the bill passed out of judiciary, it has been determined that maybe the definition needed to be more clear on lines 50 and 51 with respect to whether credit unions would be captured. And so this is just really isolating the language necessary to only apply to the specific financial institutions of interest. Be happy to answer any questions.
Well, the only thing that was added was financial institutions.
Yes, sir, that's it.
Okay. Have any questions? Wait, do I hear a move? You got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay, rule substitute LC 442-058S passed. Okay, I think Ms. Ballinger has another one.
I do apologize, Mr. Chairman, for the oversight previously. I have 1433. It's on the yellow sheet. This just changes the description of one position for the Special Advisory Group on Juvenile Justice within the CJCC, which I sit on at the pleasure of Governor Kemp. Also, it allows for parents of children who've been involved with DJJ in addition to children who've been involved with DJJ. We are subject to lose at least 20% of our funding if we don't conform with the federal guidelines, and these changes would allow us to conform.
Okay. Any questions? All right, seeing none. All right. Anybody else got any bills they want to mention on the committee? All right. Okay. Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have House Bill 1520, second page down at the bottom, creates the Georgia Council on Addressing Healthcare Workforce Challenges. It's a council that will include stakeholders from universities, medical schools, nursing schools, hospitals, rural and state, and others. Right now, we're about 28,000 nurses short in this state, and so this is will be a very important, very needed council.
Okay. I hear any. Anyone have a question? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. All right. You know, we've already set a calendar for today. And you know the Braves are coming, so if you want to get your picture made with the trophy, I think it's down in Rotunda or something like that. But you know, considering today's the day before the last day, we're going to set another supplemental calendar for today, and just hang on. House Bill 274. Do I hear a move? Got a move in a second. All in favor say aye. It's on. House Bill 1004. Do I hear a move? Got a move in a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 1069. Do I hear a move? Got a move in a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. It's on. House Bill 1103. Got a move in a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. It's on. House Bill 1193. Do I hear a move? Got a move in a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 1234. Do I hear a move? Got a move in a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 1331, do I hear a move? Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay, we can flip over now. Remember, we're still on a supplemental for today. For today, supplemental for today. I'm enjoying this. Just hang on again. House Bill 1384, do I hear a move? Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 1338, I hear a move. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. 3888, excuse me, 1388. Didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Everything's blurred. Okay. House Bill 1428, I hear a move. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. We did vote on 1338. 1388. Just want to be. Okay. Where'd that stop? Okay. 1441. Do I hear a move? Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay, one flip over. House Bill 1224. Do I hear a move? Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay. Now, let's go over those again so everybody, and don't forget, we're still operating under Rule 33.3. 274, 1004, 1069, 1103, 1193, 1234, 1331, 1354. Okay, sorry about that. 1384. All right. 1388, 1428, 1441, 1224. Okay, that is the supplemental calendar for today. Do you have your button pushed for a reason?
Are we operating on Eastern time, or are we going to daylight savings time with this calendar? What you think?
Mountain. Yeah. Okay. Now let's set Tuesday's calendar. We're still operating under 33.3. You may like this one even better. We'll go back to 1354. Do I hear a move? A move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 1405. Do I hear a move? Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 1443. Do I hear a move? Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 1478. Do I hear a move? Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 1481. Do I hear a move? Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All right, House Bill 1421. Do I hear a move? Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay, let's go over Tuesday's calendar. We'll start at the back and work forward. 1421, 1481, 1478, 1443, 1405, 1354. That is the calendar. But don't forget, don't want to let everybody understand we're still under 33.3 through crossover day. Y'all go get your picture made with the trophy. Y'all have a good day. See you in a little while.